All right, everybody. Today is Tuesday, September 8th. You should have your notebook out. Attendance quiz should be done for first, third, and my seventh period, so only KVA kids. And pick up in your notebooks where you left off in Friday's notes. For today, we're going to be kind of using what we learned on Friday and using that for what we're doing today. So for your warm-up, if my domain was -4, less than x, less than 3, what possible x values could I have? So take a minute, come up with that answer. All right, so the answer to this is any numbers between, help I spelled that right, between -4 and 3. That's my answer to this. So examples could be -3. I could have 2. I could have 1.5. I could have -1. Any number, any decimal, anything between -4 and 3 would be considered possible x values for this set for my domain here. All right. All right, so today we're going to talk about domain and range some more on graphs, and we're going to probably start tomorrow on the real world situations. But first, let's use what we just learned with what we learned on Friday. So we know how to evaluate functions, but now we're being given a domain in this interval notation here. -2, less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 2. Okay, again, this means I can have x values anywhere between -2 and +2. So the question is, how do I come up with my range? Well, I do that by -4, and my x value is going to be right here, -2 plus 2. This gives me +8 plus 2, which equals 10. My other x value, -4, is my other number. I have to do both. Times 2. Oh, that one a little wonky. Let's try this again. 2 plus 2. That gives me -4 times 2, which is -6. Whoa. Sorry, guys, making a mistake there. -8, plus 2, which equals -6. All right, so these are my two numbers that are going to go in my interval notation. The way this is going to work is that I always put my lowest number first, highest number last. I put my inequality signs the same as we saw up here. That's where I'm getting those from. And then this time we're talking about range, which is my y values. So that's why I want to put y here. So this is a new notation that you will often see us use for domain and range that we're going to use a lot today. Before we continue, you need to copy down this chart here. For all of these symbols, we need a circle because this is going to be for our graphs. So anytime we're equal, we're going to have a closed circle. Anytime we're not equal, we're going to have an open circle. Again, copy that down. This was important because now what we're going to do is we're going to be coming up with our domain and range from graphs like this. Sketch this graph, please. You want us to make a sketch of this graph. All right. Now, in order to come up with my domain, all my possible x values, I need to look at this graph. And I need to identify which is my x-axis. You should remember from middle school that the x-axis is the horizontal, the y-axis is the vertical line there. So for my x's, I want to look left to right, and I want to see how far left does my line go. If I go all the way to the left, I see I have my dot here, and if I go down to my x-axis, I see that is -1. -1 is then my lowest number. Now for -1, I have a closed circle. This is where that table that you just made is going to come into play. Closed circles were all equal to. Whenever you write domain and range, your inequality sign is always going to go in the same direction. It's always going to be less than or equal to. Don't change that. Keep that exactly as is. Next, you put the letter you're using, which is x, less than or equal to whatever number I got down here for my biggest x value, which is 5. Again, it was closed. That's why I knew I was less than or equal to. Next, I'm going to go on to my range. I have 1 is my lowest y value. Closed circle, less than or equal to. Y, because we're talking y values. Less than or equal to, because again, I have a closed circle at my highest point, which is 7. And that's my domain and range for this graph. All right, pause the video, see if you can get this one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and work it out. This is my x values. I'm going to go ahead, go to my line, go all the way to the left, and I want to look at what number I'm at on my x-axis. That's -3. Go all the way to the right on my line. The furthest point is +3. Both these circles are open, so I'm going to have just less than symbols and x in the middle. For my range, again, I'm talking about y values. I see both circles are open, so I can go ahead and put those down if I want. Look at your lowest number, which is -2. Your highest number, which is +4. On to the next one. All right, this one you'll probably notice is a little bit different. This time, I don't see any circles. I see a spot that has nothing. I see a spot that has an arrow. That makes this line a little bit different, but we're still going to stick with the same steps. Domain is my x values. I still need x here. My range is my y values. I'm still going to need a y. When I go to my domain, I still want to go all the way to the left. Look at the leftmost point, which is 0. I go all the way to 0. Now the question is it less than or equal to? Whenever you don't see a point, guys, or whenever you don't see an arrow, that tells you you have a closed point. So it's going to be less than or equal to. So whenever it's closed circle or you don't see a point, that's how you know you're less than or equal to. Now, when I go to the right and I see an arrow, what that means is my line continues on forever and ever and is not going to stop, which tells me I do not have an end number. I don't have a biggest x value that I hit. So I'm not going to put a biggest x value in my domain. That is my domain right there. That's the final answer for domain. Let's now do the same thing for range. For my range, my lowest point is -2, less than or equal to, and I don't have a highest point, so this right here would be my final answer. All right, guys, we're going to pick up from here in part 2 of the video.